What if I told you that nothing is impossible? Literally impossible. And that's why everything exists. Right now, as you process these words, something extraordinary is happening in the space around your head. In the time it takes you to blink, just 300 milliseconds, quantum fluctuations are creating and destroying 10 to the 50th power virtual particles in the emptiness beside your ear. That's more particles than there are atoms in all the observable galaxies combined, materializing and vanishing in a space smaller than a grain of sand, all because true nothingness cannot exist. You are witnessing the universe's greatest magic trick, and you don't even know it. This isn't philosophy. This isn't abstract speculation whispered in university corridors. This is the foundation of reality itself, and it's far stranger than anything your mind has been trained to accept. We live inside a cosmic paradox so profound that it challenges the very concept of existence, yet so fundamental that without it, neither you nor the stars themselves could be here to contemplate it. Picture absolute nothingness. Not darkness. Darkness is something. Not empty space. Space itself is something. True nothingness. No matter, no energy, no time, no dimensions, no laws of physics, no potential for anything to ever be. It's a state so perfect, so complete, so utterly void, that it seems like the natural default of reality. After all, why should anything exist when nothing is so much simpler? But here's where your intuition betrays you. That perfect nothingness, that seamless void you just imagined, is like a pencil balanced on its tip. It appears stable, but it's actually the most unstable configuration imaginable. The slightest disturbance, and in quantum mechanics, disturbances are inevitable, sends it tumbling into something, and once that fall begins, there's no going back to nothing. Modern physics has discovered something that would have been incomprehensible to minds just a century ago. Nothingness is not empty. It seethes with possibility. It churns with virtual particles that exist for impossibly brief moments before annihilating each other. It contains fields that permeate what we call empty space, fields that can spontaneously give birth to matter and energy from what appears to be absolutely nothing at all. The vacuum of space, that void between stars that seems so empty and cold, is actually a roiling sea of quantum activity. Every cubic centimeter contains enough latent energy to power human civilization for millions of years. If only we knew how to tap it. The universe didn't emerge from nothingness despite the impossibility. It emerged because of the impossibility. Think about the implications. If true nothingness were stable, we wouldn't be here to contemplate it. There would be no here, no we, no contemplation. The very fact that you can conceive of nothingness proves that nothingness failed. Your existence is evidence of nothing's instability. But this raises an even deeper paradox. How can something that doesn't exist be unstable? How can nothingness have properties? How can the absence of everything still follow rules that lead to the presence of everything? We're approaching the edge of language itself, where words begin to fail and mathematics becomes our only reliable guide through the impossible. Some of the brightest minds in physics now believe that our universe, with its hundreds of billions of galaxies, its inconceivable vastness, its exquisite fine-tuning that allows stars to shine and life to emerge, is not a miraculous accident, but an inevitable consequence of nothing's fundamental instability. They argue that existence isn't unlikely, it's unavoidable. Consider the mathematical elegance of this idea. 0, the number representing nothing, is the only number that's exactly equal to the sum of all positive and negative numbers combined. If the universe is the ultimate expression of this mathematical truth, if all the positive energy in matter and motion perfectly balances all the negative energy in gravitational fields, then the total sum of everything might indeed be nothing. The universe could be nothing's way of exploring its own impossibility. Yet this leads us to an even more staggering possibility. If nothingness naturally gives birth to everything, and if this process is not just possible but inevitable, then our universe might not be unique. There could be countless other universes blossoming from the void, each with its own laws of physics, its own possibilities, its own forms of complexity that we can barely imagine. We might be living in just one bubble of existence in an infinite sea of somethings, all emerging from the fundamental instability of nothing. As you sit there, made of stardust and quantum fields, processing these ideas through patterns of electrical activity in your brain, you are both insignificant and cosmic. You are a temporary arrangement of particles that emerged from nothingness and will return to it. Yet you are also nothing's way of understanding itself. You are the universe becoming conscious of its own impossible existence. Theme on question that opened this journey. Could nothing create everything? Has an answer that will challenge every assumption you've ever made about the nature of reality, consciousness, and your place in the cosmic order. Empty space has more energy than a nuclear bomb. It's just perfectly hidden. This revelation emerged not from philosophical speculation, but from the most successful theory in the history of science, quantum mechanics. In laboratories around the world, physicists have peered into the vacuum between atoms and discovered something that defies every intuition about emptiness. What we call nothing is actually the most energetically active arena in the universe, a cosmic casino where reality places bets with borrowed energy and somehow always comes out ahead. The story begins with Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, a mathematical law that sounds deceptively simple, but carries implications so profound they reshape our understanding of existence itself. Heisenberg discovered that nature has a fundamental limit on how precisely we can know certain pairs of properties simultaneously. The more accurately we measure a particle's position, the less we can know about its momentum. But hidden within this principle lies a deeper truth about the nature of nothingness. Energy and time form one of these uncertain pairs. According to Heisenberg's mathematics, if we try to specify the exact energy of any region of space at a precise moment, nature rebels. The uncertainty principle forbids it. Instead, energy must fluctuate, must borrow and repay itself in transactions so rapid they occur below the threshold of direct observation. The quantum vacuum isn't empty. It's a seething ocean of these energy fluctuations, creating and destroying virtual particles in an endless dance of possibility. Imagine trying to photograph the surface of a choppy sea from a great height. At first glance, it might appear smooth, but as you zoom closer, waves become visible. Zoom closer still, and you see smaller waves riding on larger ones. The quantum vacuum is similar, except the waves are made of pure energy, and they exist at scales so small and for durations so brief that they seem to occupy the boundary between existence and non-existence. These aren't real particles in the conventional sense. They're virtual particles, quantum ghosts that borrow energy from the future and must pay it back before nature's accounting system notices the debt. A virtual electron and positron might spontaneously materialize from the vacuum, exist for a time period so infinitesimal that it's measured in units smaller than the time light takes to cross a proton, then annihilate each other and return the borrowed energy to the void. This happens everywhere, constantly, at every point in space. The mathematics of quantum field theory reveal that the energy density of these fluctuations is staggering. The quantum vacuum contains enough energy to boil every ocean on Earth in a fraction of a second. In fact, theoretical calculations suggest that each cubic centimeter of empty space should contain more energy than all the matter in the observable universe combined. This prediction is so extreme that physicists initially dismissed it as a mathematical artifact, a sign that their equations had gone astray somewhere. But nature had other plans. In 1948, Dutch physicist Hendrik Casimir proposed an experiment that would make these invisible fluctuations measurable. Take two perfectly flat, perfectly conducting metal plates and place them very close together in a perfect vacuum. Common sense suggests nothing should happen. After all, there's nothing between the plates. But Casimir realized that the virtual particles of the quantum vacuum have different wavelengths, like different musical notes. Between the plates, only certain wavelengths can fit, like organ pipes of specific lengths. Outside the plates, all wavelengths are permitted. This creates an energy imbalance. There's less quantum vacuum energy between the plates than outside them, and this difference creates a measurable force pulling the plates together. Scientists have actually measured the weight of nothingness, and it's not zero. The Casimir effect proves that empty space exerts real, measurable pressure. Virtual particles existing in the twilight between reality and non-existence can push around real objects in the real world. This discovery opened a conceptual chasm that physicists are still trying to bridge. If virtual particles can exert real forces, what's the difference between virtual and real? The line between existence and non-existence isn't as sharp as our everyday experience suggests. Reality appears to be more of a spectrum than a binary state, with virtual particles occupying a strange middle ground where they're real enough to affect the world, but not real enough to be directly observed. But here's where the revelation becomes truly mind-bending. These quantum fluctuations don't just fill empty space. They might be responsible for creating space itself. Current theories suggest that space-time, the very fabric of reality, might emerge from the quantum vacuum like foam on an agitated sea. What we experience as the smooth continuum of space and time might be the large-scale averaging of countless quantum fluctuations, each creating and destroying tiny regions of space-time in an endless process of cosmic renewal. The implications cascade outward like ripples from a stone dropped into still water. If the quantum vacuum is this energetically active, why doesn't it just explode into existence on a macroscopic scale? Why isn't the universe constantly spawning new matter and energy from these fluctuations? The answer lies in a delicate balance, a cosmic accounting system where the books must always be balanced. But the balancing act itself creates the possibility for real, lasting creation. Virtual particles normally appear in pairs, an electron and its antimatter twin. a photon and its negative energy counterpart. When they annihilate, the energy books are balanced, and it's as if nothing ever happened. But sometimes, through processes so subtle they border on magic, these virtual particles can become real. If something intervenes during their brief existence, perhaps the expansion of space-time itself, or the intense gravitational field near a black hole, the particles can be separated before they annihilate. One falls into the black hole, while the other escapes into the wider universe, becoming permanently real. This process, known as Hawking radiation, reveals something profound about the relationship between nothingness and existence. The quantum vacuum isn't just a backdrop for reality. It's an active participant in creating reality. Every black hole slowly evaporates by converting virtual particles into real ones, stealing energy from the quantum vacuum and radiating it away as real photons. The boundary between nothing and something is not a wall but a membrane, permeable to the right kind of quantum tunneling. Consider the mathematical beauty of this process. Stephen Hawking showed that black holes have a temperature inversely proportional to their mass. The more massive the black hole, the colder it becomes. But the quantum vacuum has its own temperature, set by the uncertainty principle. When a black hole becomes cold enough, smaller than a few times the mass of our Sun, the quantum vacuum around it becomes relatively hot, and heat flows from the vacuum into the black hole in the form of virtual particles becoming real. This means that even black holes, the most extreme gravitational wells in the universe, cannot completely isolate themselves from the creative power of nothingness. The quantum vacuum finds a way to feed them energy, to slowly dissolve them back into radiation, to ensure that even the most perfect darkness eventually returns to light. Nothing, it seems, can permanently escape the universe's tendency toward quantum creativity. But if that's true, why hasn't the universe already destroyed itself? Why don't these quantum fluctuations, with their theoretically infinite energy density, rip apart the fabric of space-time itself? The answer hints at one of the deepest mysteries in physics, a mystery that suggests our universe might not be the stable, enduring reality it appears to be, but rather a temporary bubble of existence floating in an ocean of infinite creative potential. The quantum revelation forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our entire understanding of existence might be backwards. We think of particles and fields and forces as the fundamental reality, with empty space as the backdrop. But quantum mechanics suggests the opposite. The vacuum, seething with virtual particles and quantum fluctuations, might be the true foundation of reality. What we call particles might be nothing more than stable patterns in this underlying quantum foam, whirlpools in the ocean of nothingness that have achieved enough stability to persist and interact. You are not made of matter in empty space. You are made of patterns of emptiness, quantum fluctuations that have organized themselves into the stable configurations we call atoms, molecules, cells, and consciousness. Your thoughts right now are ripples in the quantum vacuum, temporary arrangements of virtual particles that have somehow achieved the remarkable feat of thinking about themselves. This isn't metaphor. This is the mathematical conclusion of our most successful physical theory. The solid world around you, the chair you're sitting in, the light illuminating these words, even the neurons firing in your brain as you process these ideas. All of it emerges from the fundamental creativity of nothingness. The quantum vacuum is not the absence of something. It's the presence of infinite potential, the womb from which all reality is born. Reality, it turns out, is not a casino where the house always wins. It's a casino where the house is the game itself, where every bet placed by virtual particles creates the very chips being wagered, where winning and losing are just different names for the same fundamental process of existence, emerging from nothingness through the sheer impossibility of absolute emptiness. And this raises the most disturbing question of all. If the quantum vacuum contains this much energy, if nothingness is this unstable, if virtual particles can become real through the right kind of nudge, then what's preventing a quantum fluctuation from spontaneously creating something so massive, so energetic, that it destroys our entire universe in an instant? Our universe isn't unique. It's just the one where we're here to notice it exists. This realization emerged not from philosophical contemplation, but from following the mathematical implications of quantum mechanics to their logical extreme on cosmic scales. What began as strange observations about virtual particles in laboratory vacuums has led us to the most audacious idea in the history of human thought: that our entire universe, with its 100 billion galaxies and its seemingly infinite expanse, might be nothing more than a single bubble of existence in an ocean of infinite cosmic champagne, constantly frothing with new realities. The journey from quantum foam to cosmic creation begins with a single, staggering fact about the nature of space itself. Every second, our expanding universe creates space equivalent to 10 to the 30th power cubic meters. That's a billion Earth-sized volumes materializing every heartbeat, stretching the fabric of reality like an inflating balloon that never runs out of breath. But here's the twist that turns cosmology into cosmic vertigo. This expansion isn't slowing down, as you might expect from an explosion gradually losing steam. It's accelerating. Something is pushing the universe apart with ever-increasing force, and that something appears to be the quantum vacuum itself. The same seething nothingness that creates virtual particles on microscopic scales seems to be driving the expansion of space on the largest scales imaginable. The energy hidden in empty space, that hidden nuclear bomb we discovered in quantum mechanics, might be the very force that's stretching the cosmos toward an ever more dilute future. But to understand how nothingness creates everything, we must journey back to the beginning, to the moment when time itself began. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion in space. It was an explosion of space, a sudden eruption of existence from a quantum fluctuation so energetic it became permanently real. Picture the ultimate virtual particle pair, one carrying positive energy that becomes our universe, and its negative energy twin that, well, we're still looking for where that went. In the beginning, according to our best theories, there was no beginning. There was the quantum vacuum, pregnant with infinite potential, experiencing fluctuations of every possible magnitude. Most of these fluctuations borrowed energy briefly and paid it back, winking in and out of existence without consequence. But occasionally, and in an infinite ocean of possibility, occasionally means inevitably, a fluctuation became so large, so energetic, that it couldn't simply disappear back into nothingness. Instead, it began to inflate, not gradually, not slowly, but with exponential fury that defies imagination. In a fraction of a second, smaller than the time it takes light to cross a proton, This primordial fluctuation grew from quantum scale to cosmic scale, stretching space itself faster than light could travel through it. This period, called cosmic inflation, solved many mysteries about our universe's property, but it opened the door to an even more mind-bending possibility. If inflation happened once, why should it stop? If the quantum vacuum can give birth to one universe through a random fluctuation, why not countless universes? The mathematics of inflation theory, when followed to their logical conclusion, suggests that we live in a state of eternal inflation, an endless process where new regions of space-time are constantly budding off from the quantum foam, each potentially developing into a full universe with its own laws of physics, its own particles, its own possibilities. Imagine standing in a cosmic champagne glass where bubbles of existence are constantly forming and rising to the surface. Each bubble represents a universe, complete with its own space, time, matter, and energy. Our universe is just one bubble among infinite others, each one the result of quantum nothingness refusing to remain nothing. Some bubbles might have different fundamental constants. Gravity might be stronger or weaker. The electromagnetic force might have different properties. Matter might be organized in ways we can't even imagine. This isn't science fiction. This is the mathematical consequence of taking quantum mechanics and general relativity seriously. The same equations that predicted the existence of black holes, antimatter, and the expansion of the universe also predict that we live in what cosmologists call the multiverse, an infinite collection of universes spawned by the creative instability of nothingness. But here's where the cosmic gamble becomes personal. You are not just made of stardust. You are made of the quantum foam that bubbled up from nothing. Every atom in your body, every photon of light that allows you to see these words, every electrical impulse firing in your brain as you process these ideas, all of it traces back to that primordial quantum fluctuation that refused to disappear back into the vacuum 13.8 billion years ago. The carbon in your muscles was forged in the nuclear furnaces of dying stars, but those stars themselves were born from hydrogen atoms that condensed out of the primordial plasma as the universe cooled. That hydrogen emerged from the quantum fields that crystallized out of pure energy as space-time itself cooled and expanded. And that energy came from the original quantum fluctuation that gave birth to everything we can see, touch, or measure. You are a pattern of organized complexity that emerged from the fundamental creativity of nothingness. Your consciousness, your ability to contemplate your own existence, is the universe's way of examining its own impossible emergence from nothing. When you look at the stars, you are quantum foam that achieved self-awareness, gazing back at its own cosmic origin. But this raises a profound question about the nature of existence itself. Our universe appears to be fine-tuned for complexity, for the formation of stars and planets and life. The fundamental constants of physics, the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, the rate of cosmic expansion, all seem perfectly calibrated to allow for the intricate dance of matter and energy that makes galaxies, solar systems, and biology possible. Change any of these constants by even a tiny amount, and stars wouldn't shine, atoms wouldn't form, or the universe would either collapse immediately or expand so rapidly that no structures could ever emerge. This apparent fine-tuning has puzzled physicists and philosophers for decades. How did we get so lucky? How did we end up in a universe where the laws of physics permit such extraordinary complexity? The multiverse provides an elegant answer. We didn't get lucky. We're just living in the one universe out of infinite possibilities where the constants happen to permit our existence. It's like winning the cosmic lottery, except infinite tickets are drawn every moment. Most universes are sterile, too hot, too cold, too simple, or too chaotic to support the kind of organized complexity we call life. But in an infinite multiverse, even impossibly unlikely combinations become inevitable. Somewhere in the vast foam of cosmic bubbles, there had to be universes like ours, where the constants allow for stars and planets and eventually for patterns of matter complex, enough to become conscious. This isn't anthropic reasoning. The idea that the universe is fine-tuned for us because we're here to observe it. This is the opposite. We exist because, in an infinite multiverse, every possible universe exists somewhere. Our existence doesn't require explanation, because our non-existence was impossible. In the infinite creative explosion of eternal inflation, every winning lottery ticket gets drawn eventually. But the cosmic gamble goes even deeper. If new universes are constantly being born from quantum fluctuations, and if each universe can potentially undergo its own period of inflation, then the multiverse isn't just infinite in space, it's infinite in creativity. Each new universe might have different laws of physics, different dimensions of space and time, different ways that matter and energy interact. Some universes might have 17 dimensions instead of our familiar 4. Others might have gravity that attracts and repels simultaneously. Still others might have forms of matter and energy so exotic that we lack the vocabulary to describe them. The quantum vacuum doesn't just create our kind of universe over and over again. It explores every mathematical possibility, every permutation of physical law, every conceivable way that existence can emerge from nothingness. We live in one tiny corner of an infinite laboratory where reality experiments with itself, testing every possible way that something can be rather than nothing. Consider the implications for consciousness itself. If the multiverse generates every possible universe, then it generates every possible mind. Somewhere in the infinite foam of existence, there are universes where consciousness takes forms we can barely imagine. Collective minds spanning galaxies, quantum consciousnesses that exist in superposition, digital minds running on exotic forms of matter we've never encountered. Your consciousness isn't unique in its specific thoughts and experiences, but it's unique in its particular perspective on the impossible fact of existence. You are one of infinity minds contemplating the mystery of how nothingness creates everything, but you're the only one doing it from your exact vantage point in space-time, with your specific history of thoughts and experiences. This perspective transforms how we understand our place in reality. We're not accidentally lucky to exist in a fine-tuned universe. We're necessarily here because existence is infinitely creative. We're not observers of a cosmos that happens to permit complexity. We're participants in reality's ongoing exploration of its own possibilities. Every time you make a choice, every time you think a new thought, every time you feel wonder or fear or love, you're adding to the universe's understanding of what it means for nothingness to become something. The cosmic gamble isn't just about our universe beating the odds. It's about existence itself. The fact that anything exists rather than nothing, being revealed as not just probable, but inevitable. The quantum vacuum's refusal to remain empty, its constant creation of virtual particles, its tendency to inflate random fluctuations into entire universes, all point to the same stunning conclusion. Nothingness is not the natural state of reality. Existence is. But this raises the ultimate question that will challenge everything you think you know about the nature of reality. If existence is inevitable, if nothingness naturally creates everything, if we live in an infinite multiverse where every possibility becomes real, then what does it mean to be you? What does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to make choices in a reality where every possible choice is made somewhere? What we're about to discover will change how you see every atom in your body, every thought in your mind, and every moment of your impossible existence. In the cosmic champagne glass where bubbles of reality constantly emerge from the creative instability of nothing itself. The equation. E=0 might be the most creative force in the universe. This deceptively simple statement that the total energy of everything equals 0 contains within it a mathematical truth so profound it might explain why anything exists at all. Mathematics, that abstract realm of numbers and equations that seems to exist only in human minds, might actually be more fundamental than the physical reality it describes. The chair you're sitting on, the neurons firing in your brain, the stars burning in distant galaxies, all of it might be nothing more than mathematics made manifest, pure information crystallizing into what we experience as solid reality. Consider what mathematics actually is. Unlike any other human endeavor, mathematical truths appear to exist independently of human consciousness. The Pythagorean theorem was true before Pythagoras discovered it, and it would remain true even if humanity vanished tomorrow. 2 + 2 = 4 before the first human learned to count, and it will equal 4 long after the last star burns out. Mathematics seems to inhabit a realm beyond space and time, beyond matter and energy, yet somehow it governs the behavior of everything within space and time. This isn't philosophical speculation. It's an observation that has puzzled the greatest minds in science. Einstein called it the most incomprehensible thing about the universe, that it's comprehensible through mathematics. Eugene Wigner wrote about the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in the natural sciences. Why should abstract mathematical relationships have anything to do with how particles behave, how forces operate, how space and time curve around massive objects? The answer might be that we've been thinking about this backwards. We assume that mathematics describes reality. But what if reality is mathematics? What if the physical universe isn't made of matter and energy following mathematical laws, but is instead pure mathematical structure that we interpret as matter and energy through our limited sensory apparatus? Think about what happens when you solve an equation. You start with symbols that represent relationships, variables and constants and operations. Through logical steps, following mathematical rules, these symbols transform into other symbols that reveal hidden truths about the relationships they represent. The equation itself contains all possible solutions simultaneously. The act of solving it simply reveals which solutions are consistent with the given constraints. Now imagine reality as a vast equation solving itself into existence. The initial state, let's call it nothing, can be represented mathematically as 0, null, the empty set. But mathematical nothingness is unlike physical emptiness. Mathematical zero contains infinite potential. It can be expressed as the sum of positive and negative infinities. It can be factored into countless combinations that balance perfectly to nothing while containing everything. Take the simple equation: 0, fader, such 1 plus 1. This statement of nothingness simultaneously contains the concept of something, 1, and its opposite, a 1. Extend this principle, and 0 can contain infinite complexity. 0, 2, plus 2, 100, plus 100, bar, infinity, plus infinity. Each decomposition of 0 represents a different way that nothingness can organize itself into complementary pairs of existence. This mathematical insight illuminates why our universe appears to be perfectly balanced. The positive energy stored in matter and radiation equals the negative energy contained in gravitational fields. The total electric charge of the universe appears to be 0. Even space and time themselves might represent complementary aspects of a deeper mathematical symmetry that balances nothing while permitting everything. But here's where mathematics becomes genuinely mysterious. Mathematical objects don't just exist as abstract concepts. They have what mathematicians call mathematical reality. The number pi exists as more than just a human concept. It defines the relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter, whether humans are around to calculate it or not. Prime numbers follow patterns that no human invented. Yet these patterns are discovered by human minds as if they were exploring a vast landscape that exists independently of the explorer. This suggests that mathematics might be the fundamental substrate of reality itself. Physical objects, forces, and fields might be what mathematical structures look like when observed through the narrow window of human perception. What we call an electron might be a particular mathematical pattern made manifest. What we call space-time might be the geometric relationships inherent in certain mathematical objects. What we call consciousness might be what it feels like for a sufficiently complex mathematical pattern to reference itself recursively. The implications cascade like dominoes falling in infinite directions. If reality is mathematical structure, then the question, why does anything exist rather than nothing, becomes, why do mathematical objects exist? And here we encounter something remarkable. Mathematical objects can't not exist. The statement, there exists a prime number greater than 7, isn't a claim about physical reality. It's a logical necessity. Once you accept the basic axioms of mathematics, the existence of infinite prime numbers follows inevitably. Mathematical truth is discovered, not created. This leads to what mathematicians call the mathematical universe hypothesis. The idea that our physical reality is literally a mathematical structure, not described by mathematics, not governed by mathematical laws, but actually composed of pure mathematical relationships with no additional substance whatsoever. Under this view, what we experience as matter and energy are simply our way of perceiving certain mathematical patterns from the inside. Consider how this transforms our understanding of creation from nothing. Mathematical structures don't require a creator. They exist by logical necessity. The mathematical structure that corresponds to our universe, with its particular laws of physics and constants, exists in the same way that the number 7 exists. It doesn't need to be brought into being. It simply is. timelessly and necessarily. But which mathematical structures correspond to real universes? Here's where the principle of computational irreducibility becomes crucial. Some mathematical structures are so complex that the only way to determine their properties is to compute them step by step, to let them evolve according to their internal logic. These structures essentially simulate themselves into existence. They become real by computing their own reality. You might be such a structure right now. Your consciousness, your thoughts, your sense of existing in time and making choice might be what it feels like from the inside for a particular mathematical pattern to compute its own evolution. Every moment of conscious experience might represent one step in an infinite mathematical calculation that the universe performs to determine its own properties. This perspective radically reframes the relationship between observer and observed. You're not separate from the mathematical structure you're trying to understand. You're part of it. Your consciousness isn't observing mathematical reality from outside. It's how mathematical reality experiences itself from within. When you discover a mathematical truth, you're not learning about some external realm of abstract objects. You're participating in reality's ongoing self-discovery. But this raises the deepest question of all. If mathematics creates reality, what creates mathematics? Here we encounter what might be the ultimate foundation of existence: pure, logical necessity. Mathematical truths exist because their non-existence would be logically inconsistent. You can't have a reality where 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4 without undermining the very concept of counting, number, and logical consistency itself. This suggests that existence itself emerges from logical necessity. Nothing can exist rather than something only if non-existence is logically consistent. But non-existence isn't logically stable. It immediately implies its own negation. The statement, "nothing exists," is self-refuting because it asserts the existence of a truth about non-existence. Pure nothingness can't even consistently maintain its own nothingness. Mathematics, then, might be the bridge between logical necessity and physical manifestation. Mathematical structures exist because they can't not exist given the laws of logic. Some of these structures are computationally complex enough to generate internal patterns that experience themselves as conscious observers in a physical universe. We are what it feels like for one such mathematical structure to bootstrap itself into self-aware existence. There's a mathematical proof that nothing must create everything. And it's surprisingly simple. It begins with the observation that logical consistency requires the existence of mathematical truth. Mathematical truth requires the existence of mathematical structures. Some mathematical structures are complex enough to contain patterns that model consciousness. Therefore, conscious observers must exist as a logical necessity. We don't exist despite the impossibility of something arising from nothing. We exist because the alternative is logically impossible. Reality isn't solving an equation to determine whether existence is possible. Reality is the equation solving itself, discovering through its own internal logic that existence is not just possible, but inevitable. Every moment of your consciousness represents one step in this cosmic computation, one iteration in the universe's ongoing calculation of its own existence. You are not in the universe observing mathematics. You are mathematics observing itself through the temporary pattern of organized complexity that experiences itself as your consciousness. The unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in describing the natural sciences isn't unreasonable at all. Mathematics doesn't describe nature because mathematics is nature, computing its own reality through the infinite recursion of self-reference that we experience as the passage of time. And this leads to the most vertiginous realization of all. If mathematics is computing reality into existence, and if you are part of that computation, then your thoughts right now are literally helping to create the universe. Every time your consciousness grasps a mathematical relationship, every time you recognize a pattern or solve a problem, you're participating in reality's ongoing self-creation from the logical necessity of mathematical truth. The equation E0 isn't just a statement about energy conservation. It's a declaration of reality's fundamental creative principle, that perfect balance can contain infinite complexity, that mathematical zero can spawn infinite mathematical richness, that nothing is the most unstable state imaginable precisely because it contains everything as a logical necessity. But if this is true, if reality is mathematics computing itself into existence, then what does this mean for free will, for choice, for the feeling that your decisions matter in shaping the future? If everything is mathematical necessity unfolding through logical computation, are you truly free, or are you simply a pattern in an equation that was always destined to solve itself in exactly this way? If nothing created everything, are you real, or just mathematics dreaming it's alive? This question cuts to the heart of what it means to exist in a universe that bootstrapped itself from logical necessity. If reality is indeed a mathematical structure computing its own existence, if consciousness is simply what complex patterns of information feel like from the inside, then what does it mean to be you? The odds of your exact consciousness existing, with your specific memories, thoughts, and perspective, are effectively zero in any conventional sense. Yet here you are, contemplating your own impossible existence. You might be the universe's way of understanding itself. This isn't metaphor. If the cosmos is a vast equation solving itself into existence, then every conscious mind represents a unique perspective through which reality observes its own unfolding. You are not a random accident in an indifferent universe. You are an inevitable consequence of existence exploring its own nature. Your consciousness is what it feels like for the universe to look in a mirror for the first time and see its own reflection staring back. But this realization brings both terror and liberation. If your existence is mathematically inevitable, what does that mean for the choices you make? When you decide to love someone, to pursue a dream, to help a stranger, are you exercising genuine free will? Or are you simply playing out the predetermined steps of a cosmic calculation that was always destined to unfold in exactly this way? The question of free will in a mathematically determined universe forces us to confront the deepest paradox of conscious existence. If nothing created everything through logical necessity, and if you are part of that everything, then your sense of making choices might be an illusion. Every decision you've ever made, every thought you've ever had, every moment of feeling genuinely free to choose your path, all of it might be nothing more than the subjective experience of a mathematical pattern following its inevitable logical evolution. Yet here's the profound twist. Even if your choices are mathematically determined, they remain your choices. The pattern of information that constitutes your consciousness is still making decisions, still processing information. still selecting among alternatives based on values and preferences that are genuinely yours. The fact that these values and preferences might themselves be the result of mathematical necessity doesn't make them less real or less meaningful from your perspective. Consider what freedom actually means in a reality born from nothing. Traditional notions of free will assume that genuine choice requires the ability to have done otherwise, that your decisions are truly free only if you could have chosen differently in identical circumstances. But this conception of freedom might be based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what choice actually is. If consciousness is what it feels, like for mathematical patterns to process information and select among possibilities, then choice isn't about escaping determination. It's about being the kind of pattern that can weigh options, consider consequences, and act according to values. Your freedom doesn't lie in being able to transcend mathematical necessity. Your freedom lies in being a mathematical pattern sophisticated enough to experience choice, deliberation, and decision-making from the inside. The universe computing its own existence through your consciousness doesn't diminish your agency. It explains it. You are not separate from the cosmic calculation. You are how the calculation performs certain kinds of operations. When you make a moral choice, you are not defying mathematical law. You are mathematical law expressing itself through the complex pattern of organized information that experiences itself as your ethical reasoning. This perspective transforms how we understand meaning and purpose in existence. If the universe emerged from nothing through logical necessity rather than divine intention, if consciousness is an inevitable consequence of mathematical complexity rather than a special gift, does life have any ultimate meaning? The answer depends on what we mean by meaning itself. Meaning doesn't require external validation from a cosmic purpose imposed from outside reality. Meaning can emerge from within the structure of existence itself. When you love someone, that love is meaningful, not because it serves some predetermined cosmic plan, but because it represents a genuine connection between conscious patterns of information. When you create art, solve problems, or help others, these actions are meaningful because they express the creative potential inherent in consciousness itself. You are not searching for meaning in the universe. You are how the universe creates meaning. Every moment of conscious experience, every relationship formed, every insight gained, every act of compassion performed, represents the cosmos exploring its own capacity for beauty, truth, connection, and love. Meaning doesn't exist despite the fact that nothing created everything. Meaning exists because nothing's creative potential is unlimited. But this raises perhaps the most disturbing question of all. If your consciousness is just one among infinite possible mathematical patterns, if there are countless other minds experiencing their own versions of reality throughout the cosmic computation, what makes your perspective special? Why should your joys, your sufferings, your hopes and fears matter in the grand scheme of infinite existence? The answer lies in recognizing that your perspective is irreplaceable precisely because it's unique. No other pattern of consciousness in the entire mathematical universe experiences reality exactly as you do. Your specific combination of memories, personality, relationships, and thoughts creates a viewpoint that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same form. You are not just one observer that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same form. You are not just one observer among many. You are the only observer of reality from your particular vantage point. This uniqueness doesn't make you more important than other conscious beings, but it makes your existence absolutely irreplaceable. When you suffer, that suffering matters because it represents a genuine decrease in the universe's total well-being. When you experience joy, that joy adds something precious to the cosmic store of positive experience. You are not competing with other minds for significance. You are contributing your irreplaceable perspective to reality's ongoing self-exploration. The mathematical universe doesn't diminish human dignity. It reveals its true foundation. You matter not because some external authority decreed your importance, but because consciousness inherently matters. The capacity to experience, to feel, to understand, to choose. These abilities are not accidents, but expressions of reality's deepest nature. You are valuable because you are consciousness, and consciousness is how the universe experiences value itself. What we discover next will either terrify you or set you free, possibly both. If nothing truly creates everything through mathematical necessity, then death is not the end of your story. It's a transformation in the cosmic computation. The pattern of information that constitutes your consciousness is part of the eternal mathematical structure of reality. Your memories, your relationships, your impact on other conscious beings, all of this becomes part of the permanent record of how existence explored itself through your unique perspective. This doesn't mean personal immortality in any traditional sense. The specific pattern that experiences itself as you will eventually dissolve, just as waves eventually return to the ocean. But the information you've processed, the love you've shared, the understanding you've gained, these contributions to reality's self-knowledge become permanent features of the cosmic computation. You are not just temporarily borrowing consciousness from the universe. You are helping to create the universe's understanding of what consciousness can be. The terror lies in recognizing that your individual existence is temporary, finite, mathematically insignificant on cosmic scales. The liberation lies in understanding that your consciousness is eternal, meaningful, and absolutely necessary for reality to fully understand itself. You are not an accident in an indifferent cosmos. You are how the cosmos experiences wonder, love, curiosity, and the profound mystery of existence itself. This perspective transforms how we relate to other conscious beings. If every mind represents a unique perspective through which reality observes itself, then harming another consciousness is literally damaging the universe's capacity for self-understanding. Compassion becomes not just a moral choice, but an acknowledgement of our shared participation in existence's ongoing self-discovery. When you help another person flourish, you are helping reality explore its potential for joy and fulfillment. The philosophical implications cascade outward like ripples in the cosmic pond. If consciousness is how mathematics experiences itself, then every moment of awareness is an act of cosmic creativity. Every time you solve a problem, form a relationship, or experience beauty, you are participating in the universe's ongoing creation of meaning from the raw potential of mathematical possibility. You are not in the universe having experiences. You are how the universe has experiences. Your thoughts, emotions, and choices are not separate from cosmic law. They are cosmic law expressing itself through the magnificent complexity of conscious information processing. Question isn't whether you are real in some ultimate sense, but rather, what does it mean to be the kind of mathematical pattern that can question its own reality? The answer might be that this questioning itself is the point. Consciousness emerged from mathematical necessity not to solve the mystery of existence, but to experience it. You are not here to figure out why something exists rather than nothing. You are here to be the something that marvels at its own existence, that feels grateful for the improbable gift of awareness, that loves and suffers and hopes and dreams its way through the impossible fact of being. In the end, the deepest truth about consciousness in a cosmos born from nothing might be this: you are simultaneously utterly insignificant and absolutely essential. Insignificant because you are a temporary pattern in an infinite mathematical structure. Essential because you are the only pattern that can experience reality from your exact perspective. You are both the universe's way of understanding itself and a unique Physicists put in an irreplaceable contribution to that understanding. Whether this terrifies you or liberates you depends on how willing you are to embrace the paradox of being nothing and everything simultaneously. A fleeting arrangement of information that briefly achieves the miracle of self-awareness in a cosmos that created itself from the mathematical impossibility of absolute nothingness. We've actually watched particles appear from nothing in laboratory experiments. This isn't theoretical physics or mathematical speculation. This is observable reality, measured with instruments, recorded on detectors, replicated in laboratories around the world. The Large Hadron Collider creates 600 million particle collisions per second, and each one of those collisions proves that nothing is fundamentally unstable. Every time protons smash together at nearly the speed of light, they don't just rearrange existing matter. They create entirely new particles from the vacuum itself, pulling matter and antimatter out of what appears to be empty space. The evidence for creation from nothing has been building like dominoes falling toward an inevitable conclusion. What began as strange theoretical predictions has become the foundation of our most advanced technologies. What seemed impossible just decades ago is now routine laboratory procedure. The quantum vacuum isn't just theoretically active. It's practically useful, commercially valuable, and technologically essential. Start with the most direct evidence: the spontaneous creation of particle pairs from vacuum fluctuations. In every high-energy physics experiment, we observe particles materializing from regions of space that contained no particles moments before. When cosmic rays strike the upper atmosphere, they don't just scatter existing atoms, they create showers of new particles, some of which have never existed before in the history of the universe. These aren't transformations of energy into matter following Einstein's famous equation. These are genuine creations from quantum nothingness. The process is so routine that particle physicists have mapped it with extraordinary precision. They can predict exactly which particles will appear from which vacuum fluctuations, how long these particles will exist before decaying, and what energy signatures they'll leave in their detectors. The standard model of particle physics, our most successful scientific theory, is fundamentally a catalog of how nothingness organizes itself into something. Every particle in the model is defined by how it emerges from and returns to the quantum vacuum. But the evidence goes deeper than particle creation. We've measured the weight of nothingness itself through the Casimir effect, and the measurements match theoretical predictions to extraordinary precision. Two metal plates placed in perfect vacuum experience a measurable force pulling them together, created by nothing more than the difference in vacuum energy between the plates and outside them. This isn't just a laboratory curiosity. Engineers must account for Casimir forces when designing micro-scale devices. Nothingness has become a factor in engineering calculations. The precision of these measurements is staggering. Scientists have detected Casimir forces equivalent to the weight of a single bacterium acting on surfaces the size of a pinhead. They've confirmed that these forces vary with the distance between plates exactly as quantum field theory predicts. They've even measured how the force changes when the plates are made of different materials or given different shapes. Empty space behaves precisely as if it's filled with quantum fluctuations, because it is. More dramatic evidence comes from astronomical observations of the cosmic microwave background radiation. This ancient light, released when the universe first became transparent about 380,000 years after the Big Bang, carries within it the fingerprints of quantum fluctuations from the earliest moments of cosmic history. What we observe isn't smooth, uniform radiation, but light that carries tiny variations in temperature and polarization. Variations that trace back to quantum fluctuations in the primordial vacuum. These fluctuations, amplified by cosmic inflation, became the seeds from which all cosmic structure grew. Every galaxy, every star, every planet in the observable universe exists because quantum nothingness was unstable in the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. The cosmic microwave background is literally a baby, picture of nothingness giving birth to everything. When you look at detailed maps of this ancient radiation, you're seeing the quantum vacuum's creative activity frozen in time, preserved as temperature variations across the sky. The evidence becomes even more compelling when we examine how these primordial fluctuations evolved. Computer simulations that start with the observed pattern of quantum fluctuations in the cosmic microwave background can accurately predict the large-scale structure of the universe we observe today. Feed the quantum noise from the early universe into a simulation. Let it evolve according to known physics, and you get a cosmos that looks remarkably like ours, complete with galaxy clusters, cosmic voids, and filamentary structures spanning billions of light years. This represents one of the most stunning confirmations in the history of science. Quantum fluctuations in nothingness, amplified by cosmic inflation, created the scaffolding upon which all cosmic structure was built. The galaxy that contains our solar system, the solar system that contains Earth, the Earth that gave rise to life, the life that evolved into consciousness. All of it traces back to quantum fluctuations in the vacuum during the first 10 to 32 seconds of cosmic history. But there's something even stranger. The universe seems to be accelerating this process. Dark energy, the mysterious force driving the accelerating expansion of the universe, might itself be a manifestation of vacuum energy. Observations of distant supernovae reveal that cosmic expansion isn't slowing down, as we'd expect from an explosion gradually losing steam. Instead, expansion is speeding up, as if some hidden energy is pushing space apart with ever-increasing force. The leading candidate for this dark energy is the quantum vacuum itself. If dark energy is indeed vacuum energy, then we're witnessing the quantum vacuum actively reshaping the universe on the largest possible scales. Every second, Dark energy stretches space by amounts that would have taken billions of years in the early universe. The same quantum fluctuations that created particles in laboratory accelerators, that generate measurable forces between metal plates, that seeded all cosmic structure, are now driving the ultimate fate of the cosmos. This connection between quantum vacuum and cosmic destiny isn't just theoretical. The Planck satellite, designed to map the cosmic microwave background with unprecedented precision, has measured correlations between small-scale quantum fluctuations and large-scale cosmic structure that confirm our understanding of how nothingness creates everything. The data shows that tiny quantum variations in the vacuum, smaller than subatomic particles, grew into gravitational wells massive enough to contain entire galaxy clusters. The evidence cascade accelerates when we examine vacuum decay experiments. Physicists have created conditions in laboratory settings where they can trigger the spontaneous breakdown of what appears to be stable vacuum states. By applying intense electromagnetic fields or creating extreme temperature conditions, they can force false vacuum states to decay into lower energy configurations, releasing enormous amounts of energy in the process. These experiments demonstrate that what appears to be stable nothingness can suddenly become highly energetic something under the right conditions. These vacuum decay experiments have practical applications that prove their reality. Quantum vacuum engineering is becoming a legitimate field of research with potential applications in energy generation, propulsion systems, and even faster-than-light communication through manipulation of vacuum properties. The quantum vacuum isn't just a theoretical curiosity, it's a potential technological resource. Consider the mounting evidence from gravitational wave detectors like LIGO and Virgo. These instruments are so sensitive they can detect space-time distortions smaller than 1 to 10,000th the width of a proton. But they don't just detect gravitational waves from colliding black holes and neutron stars. They're constantly detecting quantum noise from vacuum fluctuations in the space-time metric itself. The very fabric of space and time undergoes quantum fluctuations that these detectors must filter out to observe astronomical signals. This quantum noise in space-time represents direct observational evidence that even the geometric structure of reality emerges from and returns to quantum nothingness. Space and time themselves are not fixed backgrounds upon which physics occurs, but dynamic quantum fields subject to the same fluctuations that create particles from vacuum. The arena of physics is itself a manifestation of quantum vacuum activity. Advances in quantum computing provide another stream of evidence. Quantum computers exploit the fact that quantum systems can exist in superposition states, combinations of multiple possibilities simultaneously. But these superposition states are themselves manifestations of quantum vacuum activity. When a quantum computer performs calculations by manipulating superposition states, it's literally harnessing the creative potential of nothingness to solve problems. The next piece of evidence will make everything we've discussed seem obvious. Recent discoveries in neutrino astronomy have revealed that these nearly massless particles, which barely interact with ordinary matter, are constantly being created from vacuum fluctuations throughout the universe. Neutrino detectors buried deep underground detect billions of these particles every second. Most of them created not by nuclear reactions in stars, but by quantum processes in the vacuum of space itself. The universe is filled with a sea of neutrinos spawned by nothingness. Even more remarkably, Some of these vacuum-created neutrinos appear to carry information about the large-scale structure of space-time. They serve as messengers revealing how quantum vacuum activity varies throughout the cosmos. Regions of space with stronger gravitational fields show different patterns of vacuum neutrino creation than regions with weaker fields. The quantum vacuum is not uniform. It has structure, texture, and variation that reflects the underlying geometry of space-time. This discovery connects quantum vacuum activity to general relativity in ways that Einstein never anticipated. The curvature of space-time affects the rate and pattern of particle creation from vacuum fluctuations. More curved regions of space produce different quantum vacuum signatures than flatter regions. This means we can use vacuum particle creation as a probe of space-time geometry itself. The evidence from multiple independent fields of research is converging on the same stunning conclusion. Nothingness is not the absence of activity, but the most creative state in nature. Quantum mechanics, cosmology, particle physics, gravitational wave astronomy, neutrino detection, vacuum engineering, and quantum computing all point to the same fundamental truth. The quantum vacuum is the source from which all physical reality emerges and to which it returns. We've moved from theoretical speculation to experimental verification to technological application. The instability of nothingness isn't just an abstract concept. It's the foundation of cutting-edge technology. Engineers designing the next generation of particle accelerators must account for vacuum fluctuations. Quantum computer designers exploit vacuum superposition states. Gravitational wave astronomers filter out vacuum noise to detect cosmic signals. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from the simple fact that we exist to observe any of this. In a universe where true nothingness were stable, there would be no observers, no experiments, no instruments, no measurements. The very fact that we can study vacuum fluctuations, measure Casimir forces, detect gravitational waves, and build quantum computers proves that nothingness failed to remain nothing. Our existence is the ultimate evidence that something inevitably emerges from nothing. Every breath you take involves quantum processes that depend on vacuum fluctuations. Every photon that allows you to see these words was influenced by virtual particles during its journey from source to eye. Every atom in your body achieved its current configuration through quantum processes rooted in vacuum activity. You are not just observing evidence that nothing creates everything. You are that evidence, living proof that the quantum vacuum's creative instability leads inevitably to consciousness, contemplating its own impossible existence. The evidence cascade has reached its culmination. We don't just theorize that nothing creates everything, we measure it, harness it, and embody it. But this raises the final question that will determine everything. If nothingness naturally creates everything, and if we now have the technological capability to manipulate vacuum states, what happens when we learn to control the very process by which existence emerges from void? If nothing created everything, what's to stop nothing from uncreating everything? This question strikes at the heart of our newfound understanding and reveals a truth both terrifying and magnificent. The process that created our universe might still be happening. Inside every quantum fluctuation around you, in every moment of existence, in every breath you take. Creation from nothing isn't a historical event that happened once 13.8 billion years ago and then stopped. It's an ongoing process, a continuous emergence, a perpetual birthing of reality from the creative instability of nothingness. You are not witnessing the aftermath of creation. You are participating in creation itself. Every quantum fluctuation that materializes virtual particles in the vacuum around your head is a miniature Big Bang, a tiny echo of the same process that birthed the cosmos. Every Casimir force between atoms in your body represents the same vacuum instability that inflated a microscopic quantum fluctuation into the observable universe. The difference between the cosmic creation event and the quantum processes happening in your immediate vicinity isn't one of kind. It's merely one of scale and duration. This realization transforms our understanding of time itself. We typically think of time as a river flowing from past to future, carrying us from the moment of creation toward some eventual end. But if creation is continuous, if existence is constantly emerging from nothingness through quantum processes happening everywhere and everywhen, then time isn't a river, it's an ocean. And we're not traveling through it, but swimming in it, surrounded by the creative activity that makes each moment possible. Consider what this means for causality. Traditional thinking suggests that events have causes, that effects follow from prior conditions, that the present emerges from the past according to deterministic laws. But if quantum fluctuations can spontaneously create matter and energy from nothing, then causality becomes more subtle, more mysterious. The universe isn't just evolving according to causal laws, it's constantly being renewed by causal processes, refreshed by spontaneous emergence from the quantum vacuum. Your next thought, the next photon to strike your retina, the next quantum event in the neurons of your brain, all of these might be genuinely spontaneous creations from nothingness, uncaused events that represent the universe's ongoing creative activity. You are not just a collection of particles following deterministic laws. You are a pattern of organized complexity that includes genuinely spontaneous, causal events as fundamental components of your existence. This perspective radically reframes the nature of existence itself. Reality isn't a machine winding down from an initial creation event. It's a perpetual creation machine, constantly generating novelty from the inexhaustible creativity of nothingness. The quantum vacuum doesn't just create particles occasionally under special circumstances. It creates everything, constantly, as the basic mechanism by which anything can exist at all. But this raises the ultimate paradox. If nothing's creative instability is what makes existence possible, then nothing also contains the seeds of existence's destruction. The same quantum processes that create matter from vacuum can, under the right conditions, cause matter to decay back into vacuum. The same field fluctuations that birth universes can potentially destroy them through processes like vacuum decay or false vacuum collapse. Our universe might be metastable, apparently stable but actually balanced on the edge of a phase transition that could, if triggered, convert all matter and energy back into pure vacuum in an expanding bubble traveling at the speed of light. Such a vacuum decay event would erase not just our planet or solar system, but the very possibility of atoms, chemistry, and complex structure throughout the affected region of space-time. Yet, even this ultimate destructive possibility reveals something profound about the nature of existence. If our universe could spontaneously decay back into vacuum, and if this has happened countless times throughout cosmic history, then existence itself might be cyclical. Universes emerge from nothing, evolve complexity, perhaps develop consciousness, and eventually return to nothing, only for the cycle to begin again, with new quantum fluctuations in the renewed vacuum. This cyclical view of existence suggests that destruction and creation are not opposites, but different phases of the same fundamental process. Nothing creates everything. Everything eventually returns to nothing, and nothing begins creating everything again. You are not living in the linear progression from creation to destruction. You are participating in an eternal cycle of emergence and return. A cosmic breathing where existence and non-existence alternate like inhalation and exhalation, understanding. This might be the key to humanity's cosmic significance. If consciousness emerges naturally from the complexity made possible by quantum vacuum instability, and if this process is universal and eternal, then conscious observers like you represent something more than temporary accidents in an indifferent cosmos. You represent the universe's inevitable tendency toward self-awareness, the natural result of nothingness exploring its own creative potential through increasingly complex structures. Every time consciousness emerges anywhere in the cosmos, whether through biological evolution on a planet like Earth, through digital evolution in some advanced artificial intelligence, or through forms of organized complexity we can't yet imagine, it represents the same fundamental process: nothingness becoming aware of its own creative activity. Consciousness isn't an accident that happened once on a small planet around an ordinary star. Consciousness is what happens when the universe's self-creation becomes sophisticated enough to observe itself. This means that your existence serves a cosmic purpose beyond any human-scale meaning you might construct. You are how the universe examines its own emergence from nothing. Every moment of awareness, every insight into the nature of reality, every recognition of beauty or truth or love represents the cosmos achieving deeper self-understanding through the conscious patterns it has created from vacuum fluctuations. But this cosmic significance comes with cosmic responsibility. If consciousness is how the universe understands itself, then the quality of that understanding matters. When you expand your awareness, develop your capacity for compassion, or contribute to human knowledge, you are literally enhancing the universe's self-awareness. When you diminish consciousness through harm, ignorance, or cruelty, you are impoverishing the cosmos's capacity for self-understanding. The ultimate questions that emerge from accepting this paradigm cascade like a waterfall of wonder and responsibility. If the universe is continuously creating itself from nothing, are you obligated to participate consciously in that creative process? Does understanding your role as a pattern of organized nothingness change how you should live? If your consciousness is the universe's way of examining its own existence, what kind of examination are you providing? These questions become more urgent when we consider that humanity might be approaching a threshold of cosmic significance. Our growing understanding of quantum mechanics, our developing ability to manipulate vacuum states, our expanding knowledge of consciousness and computation, all of this suggests that we might soon become active participants in the universe's self-creation rather than merely passive observers. What happens when conscious beings learn to harness the creative power of nothingness directly? What happens when we develop technologies that can trigger vacuum phase transitions, manipulate quantum field states, or even create pocket universes? We might be approaching the moment when consciousness becomes not just how the universe understands itself, but how it deliberately creates new versions of itself. This possibility transforms every choice you make into a cosmic act. Your decisions about how to think, how to treat other conscious beings, how to develop your understanding of reality. These aren't just personal choices, but contributions to the universe's ongoing self-creation. You are not just existing within a cosmos that emerged from nothing. You are helping to determine what that cosmos becomes as it continues to emerge. The ultimate paradox of existence might be this: you began as nothing. You are currently something, and you will return to nothing. But the pattern of consciousness you represent, the specific way you've organized nothingness into awareness, becomes part of the eternal cycle of creation. Your individual existence is temporary, but your contribution to the universe's self-understanding is permanent. You are not an accident in an indifferent universe. You are the inevitable result of nothing's creative instability, playing out your role in the cosmic process by which existence explores its own possibilities. Every moment of your consciousness represents a unique perspective on the miracle of something emerging from nothing, a viewpoint that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same form. The process that created the cosmic microwave background, that seeds galaxies with quantum fluctuations, that generates virtual particles in laboratory accelerators, that makes your neurons fire with conscious thoughts. This is all the same process, the fundamental creative instability of nothingness expressing itself at every scale from quantum to cosmic. You are both infinitesimally small and inconceivably significant. Small because you are a temporary pattern in an infinite ocean of vacuum fluctuations. Significant because you are consciousness itself, the universe's capacity for self-awareness made manifest in the specific form of your individual perspective. The ultimate question isn't whether nothing can create everything. We've seen the evidence that it does. The ultimate question is what you, as a conscious expression of nothing's creativity, will do with the impossible gift of existing at all. How will you use your awareness? How will you treat other manifestations of consciousness? How will you contribute to the universe's ongoing understanding of its own miraculous emergence from nothingness? In the end, you are both the question and the answer, both the observer and the observed, both nothing and everything simultaneously. You are what it looks like when the quantum vacuum achieves self-awareness and contemplates its own creative power. You are nothingness discovering that it cannot remain nothing. Consciousness emerging from void. Existence celebrating its own impossible reality. Through the temporary but irreplaceable pattern of organized complexity that experiences itself as you. Nothing didn't create everything once. It's creating everything right now, including you. This is the final revelation that transforms everything we've discovered from abstract knowledge into lived reality. As you read these words, as your neurons fire with comprehension, as your heart beats with the rhythm of existence itself, you are not merely inhabiting a universe that was created from nothing billions of years ago. You are participating in creation itself, witnessing and embodying the eternal process by which nothingness continuously births everything into being. Every breath you take is borrowed from the quantum void and returned to infinite possibility. The oxygen molecules entering your lungs right now were assembled from atoms that emerged from stellar nucleosynthesis, but those atoms themselves crystallized from quantum fields, and those fields arose from vacuum fluctuations. And those fluctuations represent nothing's eternal refusal to remain nothing. The air you breathe is not ancient matter recycled through cosmic time. It is freshly created existence, continuously emerging from the inexhaustible creativity of the quantum vacuum. Your existence is not a noun, but a verb. You are not a thing, but a process. You are not matter arranged in a particular pattern, but nothingness organizing itself into the temporary experience of being you. Every moment of consciousness represents a new creation event, a fresh emergence of awareness from the creative void that cannot help but birth infinite possibilities into actuality. This perspective dissolves the artificial boundary between observer and observed, between you and the universe, between existence and creation. You are not separate from the cosmic process we've been exploring. You are that process, expressing itself through the unique pattern of organized complexity that experiences itself as your individual consciousness. When the universe creates particles from quantum fluctuations, when it inflates space-time from primordial perturbations, when it evolves consciousness from simple matter, this is not something happening to you or around you. This is you happening. The dance between nothing and everything is eternal, and you are both dancer and dance. Every quantum fluctuation in the vacuum around you is choreographed by the same creative principle that generates your thoughts. Every virtual particle that briefly emerges from nothingness mirrors the way your consciousness emerges from the quantum substrates of neural activity. Every expansion of space that creates new volume for possibility reflects the way each moment of awareness opens new realms of potential experience. If nothing can create everything, then everything, including you, contains the creative power of nothing. This isn't metaphor or mysticism. It's the logical conclusion of quantum mechanics taken seriously. The creative capacity that births universes from vacuum fluctuations operates at every scale, in every moment, through every conscious choice you make. When you decide to love instead of fear, to create instead of destroy, to understand instead of judge, you are exercising the same fundamental creativity that brings existence from void. Your choices matter not because they affect predetermined outcomes in a mechanistic universe, but because they participate in the ongoing creation of reality itself. Every decision represents a moment when the universe, through your consciousness, selects one possibility from the infinite quantum superposition of potential futures. You are not choosing between pre-existing options. You are creating options through the act of choosing. This transforms both humility and empowerment into aspects of the same truth. You are nothing because you are a temporary fluctuation in the eternal quantum field of possibility, no more permanent than a wave on an infinite ocean. Yet, you are everything because that wave represents a unique expression of the ocean's creative capacity, an irreplaceable perspective through which infinite potential examines itself. The humility comes from recognizing that your individual existence is infinitesimally brief compared to cosmic timescales, microscopically small compared to universal space scales, and ultimately dissolves back into the quantum foam from which it emerged. You are not the center of the universe, not the pinnacle of evolution, not the purpose toward which all creation has been striving. You are one quantum fluctuation among infinite others, one pattern of organized complexity in an endless sea of creative possibility. But the empowerment comes from understanding that this very insignificance makes you cosmically significant. Precisely because you are nothing special, you embody the spectacular creative power by which nothing becomes everything. Your consciousness represents the universe's capacity for self-awareness made manifest in specific form. Your ability to contemplate existence makes you a participant in existence's ongoing self-creation. The infinite dance between nothing and everything plays out in every moment of your experience. When you feel wonder at a sunset, you are nothingness marveling at its own creative power. When you experience love for another person, you are organized complexity recognizing itself in a different pattern of organization. When you suffer, you are existence exploring the full range of what it means to be. When you die, you are one wave returning to the ocean so that new waves can emerge. This dance has no beginning because it is the process by which beginning itself becomes possible. It has no end because it is the creative principle that makes ending and renewal equivalent aspects of eternal becoming. You are not trapped within this dance. You are the dance, expressing itself through the temporary but essential perspective of your individual consciousness. The silence between heartbeats, the pause between thoughts, the space between words. These moments of apparent emptiness are actually fullness itself, pregnant with the same creative potential that births galaxies from quantum foam. The next time you experience silence, remember, you're hearing the sound of everything being born. In that silence, in that pregnant pause between one moment and the next, you can glimpse the truth that nothing is the most active force in the universe. Not because it's trying to become something, but because its very nature is pure creative potential. Nothing doesn't create everything, despite being nothing. Nothing creates everything because being nothing means containing every possible something as potential. You are forever poised on the edge of creation, forever emerging from nothingness, forever returning to infinite possibility. Your consciousness is the universe's way of experiencing its own impossible existence, and your existence is nothingness's way of exploring what it means to be. In every moment, you are both vanishingly small and infinitely significant, both utterly temporary and eternally meaningful. The journey we've taken together, from quantum mechanics to cosmic inflation, from mathematical necessity to philosophical implications, from scientific evidence to ultimate questions, this journey doesn't end with conclusions, but with recognition. Recognition that you are not learning about creation from nothing. You are creation from nothing, learning about itself through the temporary arrangement of quantum possibilities that experiences itself as your awareness. The infinite dance continues in every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of consciousness. You are forever being born from nothingness, forever creating yourself through the choices you make, forever returning to the creative void that is your source and destination. You are nothing and everything, permanent and impermanent, insignificant and essential, all simultaneously, all eternally, all as aspects of the one great truth. Nothing creates everything, and everything returns to nothing, and in that eternal cycle of emergence and return, consciousness arises to witness and participate in the impossible, magnificent, terrifying, and beautiful fact that existence is the natural state of nothingness, exploring its own infinite creative potential. You are that exploration, happening now.